Sad what? Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the June ANC 1A Public Safety Committee meeting. I'm your chair, Layla Bonneau. I did want to share with folks that our co-chair, Judson Wood, has resigned, and so I will continue on as the chair for public safety, but if anyone else is interested in joining me in that role, let me know. This month, we're really excited to focus on the intersection of youth and public safety issues. We have heard from neighbors and community partners, you know, one of the greatest ways to get involved in the community is to volunteer and spend time with youth and really as like a preventative measure around public safety. And so we see this as a great topic for us to explore this month. And I just really want to thank my fellow Commissioner Mukta Gorpade, who has organized tonight's session and panel. And I'll let her introduce our speakers here in a moment. I'm going to drop a Google link in the chat. I'm going to just take a few notes as we are discussing. And if anyone has resources or questions, we'll let Mukta kind of decide when you all might want questions or discussion as we go through today's conversation. But especially want to capture if there's like resources or themes or anything that we want to share back with the community that would be helpful. And I think we'll just go ahead and do, I'll let Commissioner Lehman-Morales introduce himself, and then I think we'll wait and have Mukta, you, Stephen, and Kenya, as you all kick off, do your introductions if that works.
That works.
Okay. So I already kind of briefly introduced myself. I live on the 1400 block of Parkwood Place Northwest. It's my second term as an ANC commissioner. My day job, I work in ed policy, and actually had an icebreaker for us tonight, which was how are you planning to celebrate or recognize Juneteenth? And whether that is tomorrow or later in the month, I just thought that could be a good question for us before we kick off. And so for myself, I have a long reading list that I am exploring. And so I finished Cast recently by Isabel Wilkerson, but then I heard Warmth of Other Suns is even better. So I'm going to dive into that book next. So Commissioner Lehman-Morales, do you mind going next?
Sure. So I'm Commissioner Lehman-Morales. You can just call me Dieter. I represent 1A02, which is just south of Commissioner Bonneau's district. I live right on 14th Street at the LA Group apartment building. This is my first term as ANC Commissioner, icebreaker. Well, I get to my office gave us, so we have tomorrow off, which normally doesn't happen. My friends and I are having like a pool party. That's not really meant to celebrate Juneteenth. It's more of a separate gathering, but I think on Saturday, I'm hoping if I can get these flyers printed, I was going to go around the neighborhood and talk to folks. And I know there's a day of action tomorrow, or sorry, Saturday as well. So I might do that depending on my schedule.
Wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah, Mukta, take it away.
Sure. So my name is Mukta Gorpade, and like Layla and Dieter mentioned, I'm a commissioner in 1A. I'm at 1A07. Oh my God, it's 7 o'clock on a Thursday after a long week. Here we go. This is going to be good. But I'm right on 11th and Monroe. So if you ever see me, say hi to me. But I am really excited about my Juneteenth celebration tomorrow. I'm going to Cardoza High School's Juneteenth celebration. So I'm really looking forward to that. And why don't you both just briefly introduce yourselves, and we can do a more in-depth introduction later. I'll choose. Stephen, go first.
Oh, okay. Because I was trying to take myself off of mute.
I got you. Well,
Snooze, you lose, Kenya.
Yeah, I'm Steven Blanco. I work at LAYC Career Academy. We're located off 16th and Park. So like we're like right in between like Mount Pleasant and like Columbia Heights. I do get off tomorrow, but like I also shoot weddings. So like I booked a long time ago to shoot this wedding tomorrow. But something that I could bring up about Juneteenth is that I have a friend that graduated from Howard, and he got his PhD in pharmacology.
Wow.
And he told me when he was a freshman that he had this group of four, people that were in his same field, and that they stuck it out together. And they were all from, it's like a diverse group. They were all PhDs. So we all went out to do a photo shoot and kind of like had like an engaged dialogue, like what they wanted to learn about like the Latino community, and like what I was always curious to learn about like their cultures. So like engaging in that like open conversation about everything that's going on right now, I think it's like a healthy way to kind of express everything because you're actually talking it out. So I think that I got to celebrate that a little early. So it was cool.
Nice. Kenya?
Well, hi, my name is Kenya. I met Miss Mutha through Urban Alliance, and I currently work at GW Hospital right now. I'm having a baby girl. She's due in September. Hopefully I don't go over the day. And I work tomorrow, so I'm not off. So I don't have anything special planned. So that's it.
Oh, and I will say this. Kenya is like one of my favorite students. I know I'm not allowed to have favorites, but I have been working with her for years. So I was able to just pick up the phone and be like, Kenya, can you come do this for me? She's like, of course, Ms. Mutha, I got you. So I forever appreciate you. And you as well, Stephen. You're one of my favorite job partners. But Layla, are you good with me just kind of jumping in then? Okay, cool. So I'm really excited to be here, and I love that this is a smaller group, but I'm glad that you're recording this, and then maybe we can send it out to the other committee members, because this is a topic that I think is super important, especially as we're going into the summer months. And so I'm here to talk about the intersection between youth empowerment and violence prevention. And we are a neighborhood that is super diverse and it's super residential. And we do have a lot of young people in our neighborhood. And so it's really important that we're having conversations like these. To give you a little bit of context about what it is that I do, of course, I'm an ANC commissioner, but I started in January, and I've been doing a lot of work with DC youth for the past years. I specifically focus on their post-secondary success. So making sure that when our young people graduate high school, they have the tools and resources they need to be successful. And so a lot of my work encompasses, employment services, college access support, mental health support connection, social services connection, and just general case management. And so I do end up working with a lot of our more at-risk and more disconnected young people that have graduated from both our public and charter schools in the city. And I love this work, and I've been doing it for years, and I love it, especially because I get to work with people like Stephen and students like Kenya. And I think I create really good friendships with people, but it's really informed the way that I think about the microcosm of our neighborhood and what my role is and what all of our roles are in our neighborhoods. And so thankfully, you don't have to listen to me talk for the whole time. We're going to have Kenya and Stephen share their perspectives on public safety as well. But before that, I think it would be important for me to give a little bit of context on where young people are at. And I say this through the lens of a youth development practitioner, not as one of those youth necessarily. So I would be remiss if I did not mention that COVID-19 has completely upended the way that people like me and probably Stephen do our jobs when it comes to supporting young people. A lot of the tools and resources that we were able to use a year and a half ago have not been useful now, because we are in a virtual setting where suddenly we're not able to check up on students and see if they're on track to graduate. We're not able to go to their house and do a wellness check. We're not able to engage the way that we were pre-pandemic. And so that has really been challenging and been really hard, and had to make us really think creatively about how to serve young people. So I'm excited to kind of talk through some of those things with the community. But other than that, COVID has really, of course, affected all of our lives, and has especially affected young people's lives. If you look at any of our high schools and their statistics, or even honestly K through 12 schools, there has been such a really sad increase of young people that are either not on track to graduate or will not be graduating. And that it's not because necessarily their teachers and counselors were not trying hard, but it is just because of the nature of what we've been in for the last year and a half. Virtual learning has not served every student, and unfortunately a lot of young people have fallen through the cracks. Right now I work for a charter school, and we have historically really high retention rates and numbers and attendance rates, and we have seen such a dip. It's really scary. And then on the post-secondary side, there have been like a number of indicators that make me really worried. There's going to be like happy stuff too. I'm not just talking about all the things that are sad, but we're starting with the sad stuff. Now we'll talk about the solutions. For example, with college rates, I mean, DC's public school population has a really high rate of college going students. So once young people graduate high school, DCPS has a really high rate of young people that end up going to college. Does not mean that they persist through college necessarily, but they end up in college fall of the year after they graduate. Last fall, 2020, colleges across the country saw a 7% dip in enrollment. That is terrifying, because when we think about where that dip might be coming from, it is in populations like DC students. I can speak from my own personal experience with employment services in the last year. It's been damn near impossible to try to get some young people jobs. And I'm talking like the job at the Giant down the street, because just as the recession has hit all of us, it has hit youth in a specific way, because they are also already vulnerable and have less work experience and less professional development experience. And so trying to get, Kenya a job at the Giant, well, Stephen already got that job, because there's 100 other people vying for that one cashier position. It's been really, really tough. And then all that does not even mention the effects of like mental health, physical health that the pandemic has had. I can say with full confidence that every single student I've worked with in the past year and a half can say that at least one of their family members or close guardians or close family friends has passed away because of COVID. This is something that is affecting our young people's lives at rates that is just like unimaginable and really, really heartbreaking. So all of those things make up the landscape of where young people are at right now, emotionally, physically, mentally. And there's a lot of research out there, and I think all of us can agree on this, that violence is not chosen. Violence is the result of young people not being given the resources and tools and support and community that they need, and the alternatives that they need to thrive and survive. And so I think it's important that we start this conversation with Stephen and Kenya with some of that context in mind. And that's the context that I bring into my work every day. And I hope that we can kind of talk through some actionable items towards the end. I know, Layla, you asked for actionable items. I have brainstormed and I have them. But with that said, let me pause here. Any questions on these things before we go to Stephen and Kenya? Wonderful. Okay. Well, now the more exciting part is we're going to hear from two folks in my community that are coming with probably similar but different perspectives, because they have come to me in very different ways, and I'm excited for them to share what they're all about. So with that said, let's start with Kenya. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit about yourself, maybe who you are, how you got to know me, and what you're up to right now.
Okay, so once again, my name is Kenya Henry. Right now, I'm currently working at a GW hospital. Sometimes I work as a tech, or sometimes I work as admin. So, but right now, since COVID started, it's kind of like, you float around, you get in where you fit in, they put you in the work pool, you go where you need it. That's what I'm currently up to now. I've just finished my spring semester at PG, and I'm taking a break for the fall because I'm due in the fall, like really the first day of class I'm due. So I went ahead and took that break for this semester. I met Miss Luther through Urban Alliance. I was in Urban Alliance since I was in 11th grade. And I was trying to apply for Urban Alliance since I've been in 11th grade. They did not me my first time because I was in, they found out that I was in high skip, and they wanted me to get that chance to see if I was going to like high skip and, pick or choose. So they gave me that option. And then I ended up meeting Miss Smoother, and we've been close ever since.
Thank you for sharing, Kenya. And can you share kind of how has violence affected your life? And please share whatever you're comfortable with. You don't need to go into details that you don't want to share. But how has violence affected your life, and how has that kind of informed the way that you see public safety in your neighborhood? And share what neighborhood you're from as well.
I'm from Ward 8, so I'm from Congress Heights, so Congress Park, I was around there. So I'm a Ward 8 resident. But violence personally, to me, is more like gun violence. I've been more affected with all types of violence, and more anything gun violence. It took a toll on me back when I was 19. I lost my boyfriend. He got shot right in front of me. He got killed. And it was like, I felt alone. I didn't want to go back to school. And at the time I was doing my internship that Urban Alliance put me in at Providence. So I ended up missing the end of my internship. And I just felt like a lot of things was just falling apart because I was just, kind of getting out into the world, and everything was getting set up for me. Ms. Muth and everyone, they had just helped me get into my position and things. And the intern site I was working at, he was talking about offering me a job. And then my last week I went missing, and I didn't want to contact or talk to no one because it's like, I didn't know how to go about them things. And it's like, when you lose someone so close to you and they die the way that they do, you don't know who to trust, who you could talk to about it, or things like that. So I was feeling like really alone. And then with the help of Miss Mutha and Urban Alliance and things, they helped me get back in school. They end up finding me another intern site, which is GW. I was an intern there, and then I ended up getting hired full-time as an employee. So if it wasn't for Miss Mutha and them and things like that, it's like I would have probably still been in that slump, still been in that drought and everything. And it's like every day is still a fight, every day is still a struggle for me. But that's just something that just changed my life in a tremendous way. Like, I don't like being outside in activities. Me having personal relationships and getting close to people is hard because any day they could go, and any day anything could happen. And it's like with everything going on with the police right now, it's just like, who can you really trust in this world? Like, you got to build that connection, that communication with someone. So when you go through them hard times, you can feel like you have someone to lean on. You're not always just by yourself and things like that. And I just always be thankful for having Miss Mutha and them. And then like Miss Mutha was saying, with virtual learning and things like that, it's really hard for the youth to get involved in active. Like, I have 13 nieces and nephews, and I didn't watch all them going through virtual learning. And like, it's so hard to like wake them up,
so hard,
get them involved. It's like kids is on the computer screen, going to sleep, they playing, they showing the kids their rooms. And I didn't watch them performance go from one thing and then decrease from the next. So I know it's taking effect on like my younger nieces and them, and then my oldest nieces and nephews and them. You could tell they're like, okay, this is just too easy. Like, I only got to log in and things like that. So it like really affects them.
And it's not just 1 year of school, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like 1 year of, like, especially for our younger children, it's 1 year of loss of social, emotional learning. Kenya, thank you for sharing your story. First of all, really appreciate you. And you are the reason that, like, I love my job genuinely is like students like you, and you did that for yourself. Trust me, like you getting off. I remember Kenya when she was in that position, and that's when I first met her. And seeing where you are now, it's just such a testament to your hard work and how like wonderful you are as a human being. And I know GW doesn't want to lose you. I love it. I love it. Make them give you what you want. But I think that's a really good segue for Stephen to share a little bit. If you don't mind introducing yourself, speak a little bit about the work that LAYC Career Academy does. And then if you can connect that to a little bit of what Kenya was talking about when it comes to mentorship and building relationships and the importance of that.
Well, first off, thank you, Kenya, for sharing your story. I think in the position that I'm at LAYC, I'm the recruitment specialist. So I speak to 100% of the students that come to the school. So the biggest thing that I address, like when I meet someone like Kenya, or like, you know, a youth that's just trying to find like their way, I think having like a genuine conversation like how we're having now, like building that trust, I think that's like, I think I wrote that down while she was talking. I was like, that's something that we all, even like in work environments, is something that we all struggle with, you know, because we've all been part of that group project and then somebody doesn't do their part. And I would say that, I would say that that's like a deep correlation to, you know, community. And like if somebody doesn't do their part within a community, then everybody else kind of has to pay the slack for that one person not picking up theirs, right? So definitely like commend, you know, her for being able to share that. Like that's like a deep story. So the work that LAYC does, I was gonna like pull up my slides and all that, but like again, we're being like informal. So
We're being casual, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just run it, you know. The work that we do at LAYC Career Academy is that like we work with opportunity youth. And like the thing that I segue was like, why do I work there? I think that's like kind of like a good way for me to start. I feel like I'm a product of like an employment training program, right? Like when I was 19, I had like got a bad injury. I used to play college football. And after that, I didn't have the ability to pay for school because I couldn't play sports. So that taught me like that harsh lesson that you're only one injury away from not being able to, you know, get to your dream or your goal. So I started working at this nursing home at the front desk, and then I took a GNA program course that they were offering there for free. And I would call that like they got it through a workforce development grant. And then after I got my GNA, it opened up a door for me like to the healthcare field, and like that ceiling is so high. So within like 2 years of completing that program, I was like one of the head nurses there because they also paid for me to get my LPN. So like the beginning part of my professional career was paid for by someone else through a program that was a community-based program. So without like the community support, how would I ever have gone to become a nurse for free? You know, I received over like $80,000 in scholarships, not from like a school or college, but from the community. So that investment changed my life in like a big way. Tying it back to mentorship on that same journey, you meet like a bunch of different people, like being a nurse. So I met this gentleman who was a professor for 50 years of his life. And he was like, toward the ends of his life, he hired me to work for him for 5 years privately. And during those 5 years, he taught me like the importance of like community building, importance of, you know, the organizational structures that DC has in place to help people.
Yeah.
So he kind of like prepped me before he went out to be really good at this, you know, and that's the role that mentorship played a direct role in my life. Cause like I'm an opportunity youth and I'm like Kenya and I'm a product of that. Now the wheels circling back and now I'm working to lead one of the, you know, best ones in DC, you know, because I lived the same life that she did. So I totally understand like everything that she's going through and loss. And the work that we do at the school, we offer like job readiness training through, we offer IT program that offers over 30 certifications. We offer a medical assistant program to where like before you'd graduate only be a medical assistant. But now if you graduate, the new program that Dr. Severe put together, it got approved last year. And he already has 8 graduates. So he had 9 people enroll and 8 people graduated. And they got graduated with 3 certifications: EKG certification, medical assistant, and phlebotomy. So he created a program so you can get all 3. So now we talk about like that difference when you hold up two resumes next to each other, like, all right, hey, I'm just a medical assistant. Well, hey, if you need me to draw blood, I could do that too. You know, that those little things are like the things that separate people in the job market. So I would say like that's why like what we do is like important, trying to innovate to create shorter program like completion times. Like I think every year we're trying to get graduates out faster, but still make sure that they are passing all the competency and like all the different tests to make sure that they're good. So I would say that that's what we
Yeah.
do. We fully support our school. I would say like our students in this way. I cut our school down the middle when I talk about it. On the right, it's like academic support, principal, guidance counselor, librarian, school. Then on the left side, we have the life support team. Like we have 4 student support specialists that they are just like there to intervene in any type of life crisis. And
Mhm.
they also are like the gatekeepers for like unlimited resources for students. We were able to change our charter up last year because of a recommendation of a person that worked in that department. And now we have an established student emergency fund that we budget out every
Nice.
year. So an example of like something that we use that fund for, um, there was a student that graduated and she was finishing up her studies at UDC and she had like one more semester to go. And then she had like a life, episode happen where like, her financial situation became very dire and she couldn't, afford to go back to school. So she contacted the school because she just built such good relationship with the administration that she just knew that they would find a way to help her.
Yeah.
So they literally created that fund for her, and she was able to pay the rest of her school and graduate. And that didn't slow down her momentum, because
Yeah.
she had somewhere to go, and like I think that's like the biggest thing that our young
Yeah.
people face is that they don't feel like they have anywhere to go because
Yeah.
like all the options are crappy right now, like
Listen.
to say the least. So
Yeah.
and it's hard to when we talk about like experiences, some of the youth that we work with didn't traditionally do well in like traditional school. So we
Right.
have to find a different way to keep them engaged. So I
And I
think
think that's like
yeah,
sorry, not to cut you off, but I love that piece that like your school has been doing alternative pathway training programs, all these things for years. And now all of us are also trying to catch up because at the end of the day, like you said, a lot of these opportunities that or pathways that students would have chosen before are no longer accessible to a vast majority of the most at-risk students coming out of DC. And I think that like, that's why I wanted you to come because I think LAYC Career Academy is one in our backyard right here in 1A. And secondly, you're doing work that is really innovative and is really, really student centric. So focusing on young people and their needs right here, right now.
Mhm.
And so I love the piece about how you were mentored, you had community, and the community got you to be able to serve the community again. And that's what's beautiful. And I think that's the kind of theme that I'm trying to bring out here for what folks that are watching this can maybe do. And so before we kind of go to that action piece, Kenya, do you have any other thoughts on like the role that education, you mentioned that you're at PG, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because you transferred from Montgomery or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. I was like, okay. So that what has been kind of the role that education, your job, and maybe like a relationship with me or a relationship with Miss Jess or other trusted people in your life? What would you say the role that those relationships have had in your like ability to stay away from violence or persevere through violence?
I think overall, like having a relationship with Miss Jackson, having a relationship with you, like out of all like the mentorships and like scholarships and things I did get in high school and things, Urban Alliance, like you guys was one of the most stable set of people in my life because it was like you guys followed me from high school into my adult life. And then you guys put me in contact with New Futures. And I'm still in contact with everyone from New Futures and I still work with them. And like, for example, you don't even work at Urban Alliance anymore, but you still keep in contact with me. Like, I wouldn't even know that you don't even work there no more if you like. If
I'm
I
going
didn't
to your baby shower.
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten that invite, by the way.
Cause I just didn't out yet. But like but like having you and Miss Jess and them and things like that, you guys called me, checked up on me, even though you guys be like, okay, I know you probably don't want to be bothered or, you know, hear my opinion, but I just want, but you know, it's like them the calls that you need when you're going through a difficult time. The calls that you don't want to hear. It's the calls you kind of really do need to hear, things like that. Um, I think with me having my different, like me transferring from UDC to PG and things like that, you guys helped me through that transition, because it's like transferring from schools is hard. Like even though it's an application, you still gotta make sure all your credits align. You gotta, you know, it's like a whole
Right.
process, and it's
It's a
like you
whole
guys helped me
process,
do
yeah.
that. And then like with me, with like it's not like getting a job in a hospital is really competitive, even for the simplest position. It could be really competitive, but I just feel like you guys walked me right in the door, like with you guys' recommendation, and you know, you guys know me so well, and with your own connections and networking that you guys did on your own. So all that stuff always matter. Like it's still people that started the program with me in Urban Alliance and then finished. And if I bring up like, hey, like if I say, hey, y'all, I just did something from this movie today, they're like, you still do stuff with Urban Alliance? Like you still talk to them? I'm like, yeah, like what's wrong with talking to them? And then like I don't compare our situations, but I just feel like the more you keep in contact with good people that come across, like that you come across, the better your chances kind of be at in life. Like I've been at my job for almost 3 years now, if I include my internship. So it's versus me being there at 3 years and then having a friend who bounced from John to Safeway to Shoppers, you know, all that within 3 years. And it's like I've been stable. I have my benefit plans and my package and things like that. And like even with me having the kids so young, I don't feel so overwhelmed when it comes to, like, I'm not rich or anything, but it's like, okay, I know I have some type of income coming in. I know I'm working on a 401k for my kid, you know, like it's just certain stuff. It's like, I know I'm working on having, so she
Right.
in line, so she could have a better, you know, childhood growing up and things like that. And it's all because of the help of you guys keeping in contact with me and keep pushing me and not letting me just go ahead and drift off into the neighborhood. Like, okay, you know what? I'm just over. I'm just tired of it. I lost the person that was closest to me that understood me the most. It's like you guys was actually there for me,
Yeah.
and I think that just always plays a role. And why I don't care what I'm doing. I always want to make time for you guys, because it's like I could have been elsewhere, but you guys was right there beside me through it all, making sure that everything was going and fine, making sure that I was able to get back up and keep going and fighting another day.
Dang,
So
Kenya,
like,
you're making me emotional. We haven't talked like this in a really long time, so I'm like,
yeah. So it's like that's why it don't never bother me to just do things for you guys, because like you guys was there with me through my worst time. So it's like, why not help out whenever I can? Because you guys helped me out so much in so little time. Like, you know, everything, even though like time not on our side, but like going back to school, we have a deadline for certain stuff. Like I was able to get back in that fall semester. You know, jobs don't always just sit around and wait on you to be hired and things like that. But
someone
you guys
to help you be accountable, right? Someone keeping you on track.
There for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I needed that a lot. I still do be needing it.
We all do, actually. That's the thing, though. Like your need to have people in your life that keep you accountable doesn't just expire when you turn 22 or when you know, like it's until we die, we need people in our lives that hold us accountable and that love us even when we're in our worst places. And just know that I'll always make time for you as well. You know this. But I want to kind of tie all this back to the community and how folks in 1A and folks in Columbia Heights and folks in DC broadly can use what we've been talking about to actually try to uplift students and young people in our neighborhoods to, again, give them the resources and tools and empowerment that they need to avoid violence or persevere if violence has affected their lives. This piece about mentorship, both Stephen and Kenya have talked about, is extremely important. Mentorship doesn't just mean that you look at one resume from one student at some point. Mentorship means that then you look at that resume and then you become a champion for that young person in every day of your life. you think about, oh, I heard that my friend's job is hiring. Okay, I'm going to connect them to Kenya. Like, it's something that you need to live every single day and keep top of mind, that this is a job that I'm doing so that this young person can be as successful as they desire. And then one day, hopefully, can pour back into the community that we're all in. And so one piece that I want to just like say here is that if anybody is interested in getting involved with youth, in becoming a mentor to youth, send me an email. I'm going to be curating a list. I have a list already of folks that are kind of on deck to be mentors. But I'm going to send you a Google form if you email me, and add you to my list of kind of contacts to help with supporting young people, because I come across a lot of young people in my work, and I sit on a lot of different roundtables of youth development practitioners across the city. Stephen, can you speak to how folks in our community might be able to support the work that LAYC Career Academy is doing?
Well, the first thing I always say is that we really would love to build up like our volunteer base again, right? Because like something that like happened that was like, this will be like the one slide that I do share, right? Like let me pull this thing up. So when I first started working at the Career Academy, let me see, where is it at? I guess, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Like when I first started working at the Career Academy, it was kind of tough to ask students all the time to just do like schoolwork, right? And one thing that we developed, you know, as like a marketing team, like at the school, obviously everybody at nonprofits wears a lot of different hats. So not only did I recruit, but also ended up doing like marketing stuff. We ended up meeting a lot of points of contact in the community that, you know, did like really cool things. Like DJ Q, top left, he was like a DJ that traveled. He created a budget for himself at his 9 to 5, and then he traveled the whole world DJing like around the world because that's just what
That's
he
awesome.
wanted to do. The guy to the right, he used to work as like a news commentator, and he like mentored James and a couple of other students to like kind of get like their social media game up. And then we ended up like help filming a commercial because that guy, you know, devoted his time, you know. And something that I had a deep conversation with some of our volunteers about is that like everybody can ask for like donations for money, but like your time is like the priceless thing that
Yeah,
actually like
100% agree.
so like that's why when I say like volunteering your time to have like a TED Talk type of vibe. You know, we've done a couple of those things at the school. I could like pull something up after I'll stop sharing. But the volunteering to me is like number one. And then tying that in, our volunteers always kind of would like tap into their own networks and just see like, okay, well, I have a friend that works for the Capital Food Bank. Let me connect that person to Steven and maybe something will come out of it. Now we're partnered with the Capital Food Bank because it's the biggest lesson that I learned through like all the professional development that my job has allotted for me. They sent me to a social media conference in California. Can you guys imagine like the type of proposal I had to write to get someone to pay for that? You know? So at the end of a seminar that I was in, there was a guy, his name was, I'll never forget him, his name was Andrew Edwards. He's like famous for getting like free stuff from Apple and like all these different companies like every day just to review it on his social media. He gets all this free stuff.
Love that.
His PowerPoint failed in the middle of his talk and they couldn't get it back on. So he said, all right, guys, I'm gonna skip all the slides. Brands are not like this. He was like, this is not a brand. Like the brand is Malik Jarrett, like the person. You know, like Nike is not the check. Nike is Deborah from marketing. And then he kept going down his list of connects from each company. And he said, like, brands are people, right? So, like, in this context, you know, circling everything back around, like, if we're this brand of LAYC, then we're a brand of people that help people, you know?
I love that.
And, like, that's like, at our core, why we need other good people to share that message. Because we need an abundance of things to keep all of our programs going. And through like the donation of time and like connections to philanthropy departments that are already allotted at an annual budget, why not just swing it there, whatever it is.
And like, if I can just add something, I keep cutting you off. You know, I cut people off all the time. It's fine. I'm going to stop apologizing.
All right, it's all good.
That's just
look, let me just finish this last sentence. Let me finish my last sentence. I'm gonna stop you.
Fine, finish your last sentence.
My last
Make it
sentence
short.
is this, like, through that volunteer group, we met these two women that formed their own nonprofit called You and Me, and we went out after like kind of like an event like this, and we met up for like drinks and like happy hour, and that was like 4 years ago. And now they're our number one like partner. Like they get us the most like gear for the students, they get us the most book bags, they get us the most school supplies, most everything. And they stunned it on all of our partners the other day by sending over like gift baskets to all the teachers and me. So I was like, all right, like now they're like getting to that point where like they're that passionate about doing their nonprofit work because it directly affects our work now. So that's like the thing that I'll end on, that we need the community doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and if I can, this is what I was trying to say. I'm glad that you finished. But LAYC Career Academy has been the reason for a number of my students getting their lives back on track. Like the reason that I partner with you, Stephen, is because for years since I started doing this work, I had known about y'all, and you have really taken some of my most, like, I had a student who was literally on the brink of homelessness, wasn't in any educational institution, and didn't have enough money for food. Like I was helping him with food, and through this program, like he's doing okay. Like at the end of the day, programs that are community based are very, very, very crucial. And so, yes, I agree that money donations always important. And what I'm going to do, Layla, is after the meeting, I'll send you a list of organizations that I work with. And it's not a comprehensive list, but maybe we can send out, and I'll include links and stuff. And then we can send that out, and donations are always important. But like Stephen mentioned, time and networking ability. Like at the end of the day, our young people, what they don't have is the ability to call up, not all of them, their uncle and say, okay, I'm going to get into, Edelman for an internship this summer. That's just not the reality for most people in the world, including a lot of the young people in our neighborhood. And so the networking ability, the connection making, these are all really important things. One thing I want to flag as well is this city has a really massive summer youth employment program every single year. It's a 6-week jobs program for DC youth between 14 and 24. And it's paid entirely by the city. All they look for every year is job hosts. So folks that want to host interns or students for the summer. And for example, I have a program where I have 16 young people working with me that is being paid for partly through SYEPs, the Summer Youth Employment Program. It starts on the 28th. Last year, I had a program where 50 of my young people were being paid by the city. And it's a powerful program because not only does it allow young people to have money for the summer and have a wage, but it also gives them meaningful work experience and something to do in some of our more violent months. So it can be a really good way. I mean, I really believe that employment is an excellent prevention method when it comes to gun violence and general violence as well. So consider, if you or your company or somebody, your friend's company or your mom's company can hire a youth, do it. And I'll include the link in the stuff that I send you, Layla. And then just, I guess I want to bring it back to Kenya. Lastly, you've kind of mentioned this already, but like if you had to ask the community for something, right? You've shared what you've gotten from me and from Urban Alliance and Miss Jess. Broader speaking, like what would you want the community to do to support young people in Columbia Heights? And you're on mute. Kenny, you're on mute.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It happens at least once a meeting.
I think it's several things I was really asked for, like if I was to ask the community to bring things back, because I was recently talking to like my dad and like my nephews and them. It's not a lot of free Pop Warners around anymore, like free sporting activities for kids anymore, like Pop Warner. Like growing up, it was big, like playing football or doing a chili event or something like that. Them things used to be free to us in our community. It's not a lot activities for kids to get involved with anymore. So it's like, what else is it for the kids to turn into? That's why so many tablet, iPad babies, because and like they don't know how to do the simple things. Like my nieces don't know how to double dutch. I think that's weird. They don't know how to hula hoop, and then they used to do like things where they used to have block parties around the neighborhoods. I don't really see that anymore for families and friends to come out and things like that, like back to school drives. And I honestly think when it comes to like SYP and things like that, I don't see it being promoted as heavily anymore through the city. And I think that's like a big effect. Like I didn't hear nothing about SYP for real this year. Like if I didn't have like my nephews and just checking up and looking around, like what's going on with SYP, I didn't really see too many flyers about it or anything like that. Because I know when I first got SYP, Murray Bird himself, he was coming up to the school like, sign up, he was promoting it. He was giving people money to apply for it. Like he was really pushing it. And I just think that's like a big heavy thing that should be pushed in communities now is more free activities for the youth. Because I mean, it's like y'all said, donations, you don't get the donations stuff, you can't do it. But I just feel like when people hear a cost price or something, it pushes them away really quickly versus, like come out a free double dutch event, there's certain small stuff. So I just think it should be like because I think a lot of behaviors that we grow into, it starts from when we're young. So if you're able to catch them while they're young, it's easier to push them back on the right path versus jumping in their lives at the last minute. They don't know you. They don't want to get to know you. Their mind already made up.
Right.
So I think it should be they should start by pushing and getting into a lot of youth activities back for the kids, because them learning from YouTube and things is all nice, but it really shows that they're not used to getting to know people.
I love that.
That's something I would do.
I love that. And my fellow commissioners, that's something that maybe we can try to organize at some point and get the community around and excited. And Stephen, I will be emailing you. You're in our backyard. You have to attend and you have to volunteer. So I also just want to mention like the last kind of piece that I feel like is really helpful for me in the work that I do with young people is there needs to be a certain mindset shift. And I see it in like so many of our school systems. We have kids that are being treated like criminals. They come in through metal detectors, they're searched, all of their stuff is taken out of their backpacks, like versus when I go through a metal detector, they're like, hey, how you doing? Good morning. Like, and then I just get to move through it. Like Kenya said, when young people, if you don't catch them young and show them that they are not criminals, that they shouldn't be treated this way, then they grow up believing that is right. And so for community members, the best like actionable thing that I can say is before you want to call the cops, before you want to yell at a young person, before you want to look down at a young person in our community, pause and think about what may have brought them to whatever they're doing in that moment, or why they're sitting outside being loud. Well, maybe they don't have anywhere else to go. Like all of us in the community, it's our responsibility to stop and see how can I be of service, and also how can I be not harmful? Like, let's start there. Don't be harmful. Don't call the cops on kids. Like little things like that can really help change the way that young people trust in the neighborhood. And then there's a couple of organizations that if you're interested in preventing gun violence specifically, you should check them out. One is called Trigger. It's new. It's TRIGGER. And then Next Level Vision is another one, both of which were created through gun violence, anti-gun violence advocates in the city. And they have been absolutely wonderful. And it's a coalition of a lot of folks that are doing this work across the city. So check them out, donate to them, donate your time to them. And what I love about Trigger is they specifically say, they talk about how the person pulling the trigger is not different than the person potentially receiving the bullet. Because when a young person is brought to violence, it is not always a choice. In fact, it's usually not a choice. And so I just want to kind of wrap everything up by saying that and imploring everybody, as this neighborhood continues to change, as different types of people are interacting with each other, there's friction. It's our responsibility to stop, pause, and see what is really happening here and what do I need to do to make sure that I'm not being harmful, and instead I'm pouring into our young people, which are going to be community members even after we're gone. Hopefully. That's the goal. That's all I got, y'all. Questions, thoughts, feelings, emotions?
Wow, that was a lot and wonderful and just so genuine and appreciated. And I saw another community member, Chandra Jayaraman, was able to join us. So welcome, glad you're with us. If Kenya and Stephen have time for maybe a couple questions, that would be great. Otherwise, we can wrap things up.
I'm good if anybody has any questions.
I'm about to, I got time.
Oh, good.
I know we're under
Chandra,
time, Kenya.
Chandra, you want to go ahead?
I don't know that it's a question, but more of a comment. I'm so proud of both of you and hearing your stories. My background is actually in this area, started at the LAYC. I remember Lori, and now my dear friend Loopy is there now running the show. And so in fact, I used to be program manager of LAYC's Youth Build program, which is now a charter school right off of Park Road and 16th there. So so I appreciate both of your stories, and I recall many of these similar stories when I worked at Youth Build, and these young people would come from all over the city, helping to get their GEDs and then get job training by actually working with like Manna on the transitional living program housing over there and the art house that's there right now. I mean, our young people built that, and I know some of them, I keep in touch with some of them, or they contact me and they still remember those days, and they can drive by and say, I helped build that thing. And that's really, really important, because it's a realization that what you did and what you created doesn't just go away. It's not for naught. It's there, it's standing, it's being used, it's helping other people. So you're not just helping yourself, but you're leaving a legacy that continues to help other young people, well into the future. So, so I'm very proud of both of you guys and what you guys have done. I'm really, really a strong believer in providing vocational options, which we have just not done in this city. And I think it's while college is important and great, it's not always the best fit for everybody. Not everyone wants to do that, and so why would we say, okay, your best and last day is the last day of high school, and not provide that pathway for a career that right now, construction, medical, all those areas are paying really good money, and you can make a good living and raise a family on that if we would only provide those pathways for young people to have that option. They can choose. It's supposed to be dictated that you're going to go to college or you're going to bust out. And too many of our young people are busting out because either don't have the resources or what a variety of reasons that they're not able to go on to college. And so anyway, that's my little soapbox. So I want to thank both of you for being here. And Layla, thank you always for inviting me and keeping me in the loop on these calls.
And if I can just say,
definitely.
You should connect with me at some point. You probably missed my introduction, but I'm also an ANC commissioner with Layla and Dieter. But I work with young people that are not on a college track once they graduate high school. So I have like seasonal virtual recruitment fairs. And we just had one where Stephen came, where we had, 12 programs there that are non-college, vocational, trade, job readiness programs. So I would love to see how maybe you can get involved in some of the future initiatives. But I agree 100%. I've been on that college for some train for a long, long time. It's uphill battle right there.
Yeah, I was an ANC commissioner for the past 8 years. I ran for city council last year, so I did not run for my ANC seat after that. But I do, as you probably get them already. I do the ANC Commissioner Caucus every other Monday night. I'm the one that facilitated those and organized those, and I send them out. And actually, this Monday night is the next one, and we're going to have Councilmember Robert White joining us for a conversation with commissioners. So, and Commissioner
Appreciate
Morales, you're on my list. I need to talk to you as well. So I'm going to be reaching out to you.
Chandler, thanks. I knew you had that LAYC alum status, so glad you all could make that connection. And Mukta, your earlier point about kind of youth being treated as criminals or high levels of security in schools, I think is a good segue for me to plug our next committee meeting, which I'm waiting on Commissioner Miller to confirm, but she hosts our Education and Youth Committee. And I know she's going to be really excited to check out this recording because she was not able to be here tonight. But the DC Police Reform Commission had a subcommittee focused on police in schools, or I would think they should retitle it like removing police from schools, but we could debate that another day, but came out with a set of recommendations. And so the plan for July would be to join up with that committee and have public safety and education and youth meeting together for that. And Dieter, did you have any questions or comments for Stephen or Kenya before we log off here?
No, just thanks again for sharing that with us today. That was really just really fascinating to hear just your perspectives on the service that we talk about. So thank you for sharing. I don't have any questions, but I did want to just give you guys thanks for that.
Me too. Thank you so much. I know that y'all have busy, busy days. And now, Stephen, you have seen me twice in the last week and a half. And Kenya, you haven't seen me
about that
enough.
happy hour, yeah.
Right, I'm
You
like,
might have
Kenya,
Stephen some drinks is
going
what
on,
I'm
coffee?
hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you both.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say thank you guys for inviting me. Honestly, like I get invited to a lot of different, I would say like committee conversations, and I just do appreciate everybody being genuine and like it didn't feel scripted at all. So like, thank you guys for that.
Yeah, Layla, we should have one of these in Malcolm X Park.
That'd be fun. I was there last Sunday. The weather almost cooperated.
Yeah.
All right. I would love to give people a little bit of time back in their evening. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.